I just rode all the way down Fifth Avenue on my bicycle, so I'm sweating a little. I'm just so excited, though, about this session. I think that's why I'm sweating, because I have my under 30 partner, Danielle Riley. Greetings, greetings, greetings.
Hello, Brad. How are you this morning or this afternoon, wherever you are?
12:01. It's afternoon on the East Coast. Now, Danielle, you brought on a special guest. Rip-roaring first provocateur on the Provoke show with under 30, over 60, and she's all of 37. Tell us who you have.
Today we have Marguerite Gager, and thank you so much to Sean Carpenter for teaching me how to say that yesterday at NAR Tech Edge. Just got to give that shout out. Marguerite, say hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Marguerite, why do you think everyone thought you would be the most provocative first guest on our Provoke show? What is it about you that's so provoking?
I don't know. Honestly, I was a little surprised. Like, I think the things I talk about are pretty basic, but I guess basic in our business is provocative.
Well, good. I'm glad you're here. I love provocative.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
So let's do our little routine we got going, Danielle, and we'll get Marguerite to chime in on any of this. So the most read stories of the week, quick rundown. What happened when one real estate agent from Hawaii forgot to pay his MLS dues? What's the scoop, Danielle? What do we hear about this?
Basically, an agent in the broker's office decided not to pay their dues, and the broker got a certified letter saying he had a certain amount of time to pay the dues or the entire brokerage would be suspended. And he's all whiny and crying and, oh, woe is me, and how could you do this to me? Hello, dude. You're a broker. It's your job. It's your responsibility to make sure your agents are doing what they need to do. If they're not complying and they're not paying their MLS dues, that's on you. You either fire them or pay them. But don't whine. Don't complain.
I think there's something called a protest. People that don't pay their taxes to the government because, and I'm not advocating this by any means, but I've been reading about this Southern California MLS mess where people are paying dues to all of these different MLSs. They should have one statewide MLS. I mean, it must be frustrating to pay all these dues. I think I would just be ballistic. I might become some sort of MLS stand-down protester too.
You mean, yeah, I guess if you don't want the brand name realtor, then don't pay it. You lose all the benefits of being a realtor, which is your choice. And luckily where I am, we have just one MLS. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. But, you know, as a new broker owner that our dues were actually just due a couple of weeks ago, what did I do? I sent out a message to every agent in my office and said, hey, did you pay your dues? And I made sure they paid their dues. So I don't know. To me, I think that just goes back onto the broker. It's their responsibility. And if you don't like how much you're paying, then get out of the business.
So Danielle, I love you. You're a responsible broker professional. You are on your road to fame and fortune, because I really believe if you stick by the road, the golden rule, you're going to be successful. So let's move to the next one. Very uncontroversial. I'm sure Marguerite has an opinion on this one. How Nextdoor reduced racist posts by 75%. I know in West Hollywood, there was some wacko stuff on Nextdoor that I thought really crossed the line. The community kind of policed itself, but it looks like Nextdoor had to step in and start policing itself. Marguerite, tell us about this one, and also tell the gang here who don't know what Nextdoor is, because some people don't.
All right, so Nextdoor is an app that you sign up for. And, you know, when I signed up for it for my community, I actually created the one for my neighborhood a few years ago. Like, they actually vet you. They make sure you live in the neighborhood. They need evidence that you live in the neighborhood. So it's a way for neighbors to connect and, like, help each other and, you know, have a sense of community. Of course, realtors love it because they can get all up in their neighbor's business and, like, be a face in the neighborhood and hopefully get listings. But in practice, what happens is it's just a hotbed for racist stuff. And in my community, we don't really use Nextdoor. We have Facebook groups. So the change that Nextdoor is making will not impact our groups, but I can definitely see that there's a problem, because what you end up having, especially in communities that are changing, or I don't know, that are just anything, is every time a person of color walks down the street, it's like all hands on deck. There is a brown person in a baseball cap walking down the street, and like
a brown person.
No, truly, like I'm not exaggerating. Like it's sparked a lot of really good discussions in my city about, you know, how can you tell a person is up to no good? Like, what does that person look like? A black person on a bike is stealing it, and a white person on a bike is out for a ride. And so I appreciate they've created a form that has like a kind of like a drop down box with identifying characteristics and stuff. And their idea is to sort of prompt people to think before they say, like, we have this menace on the street, like to think about it a little bit. I personally don't think it's going to make all that big of a difference. But the fact that it sparked a conversation in the real estate industry about race in any area is good enough for me.
Always good. Couldn't agree more. Let's move on. Danielle, did you read this story this week? This is the top 5 stories of the week, gang. And why that? It's the stories that that the readers read the most. So we have 5 disruptive technologies that will shape real estate. Of course, I like this one because it's all the stuff that I like to talk about, but it's kind of put you to sleep, some of this. Artificial intelligence, blockchain. Does any of this really matter to your job every day, Danielle?
I think it just goes back to that argument that we heard a lot about in San Francisco. Is technology going to replace the real estate agent? No, never, ever, ever, ever. I'll stand firm on that one all day long. I mean, as a realtor that's been doing this 10 years, you cannot possibly buy and sell houses without human beings being involved.
You know where I think we're missing an opportunity in this conversation is that we go straight to, we're a little bit narcissistic, and I obviously I am a little bit as well. Like, we're self-centered. So we hear 5 technologies that are going to disrupt real estate. We think us. We think our jobs, our salaries, not our salaries, our commissions. But what we are missing is we're not going to lose our jobs to robots first. Our clients are going to use their jobs to robots first. And they already are. Automation, every recession that we have, more and more people's jobs are replaced with automation. So the question is not what's going to happen when we're replaced by robots. It's what's going to happen when our clients have no incomes to buy homes with because their jobs have been replaced by robots. And that is a huge conversation.
A really good point. I think you're right. I think there's a little bit of jilted fear. Jilted, is that the right word? There's a little bit of fear here around robotics replacing us. I think it creates jobs and new opportunities, but I could be wrong.
That's what I'm thinking. And again, if I'm just kind of playing this one out in my head, if robots replace humans or start to eventually replace humans, there's going to be people that are going to need to maintain the robots. There's going to be people that need to build the robots. It's going to create jobs, right? I don't know. Then maybe I'm just thinking too small-minded on this one, but that's just my way of thinking. But Marguerite, I do agree with you on that. You're right. I think if anything, our clients are going to lose jobs before we do, but I still stand firm that I don't think we're going anywhere.
Yeah, I wish some robots would replace these really incompetent realtors out there, or someone would replace them because, oh my gosh, I don't know. Danielle, what else do we got on deck?
Let's see. We have the 3 that we just discussed. We talked a little bit about, hold on, I'm just pulling up my agenda here. All right. How do you create customers for life?
Yeah. How do you do that? That was Seth.
How do you do that?
That was Seth's video from Connect. And this is, I would say, the 15 minutes that you should all watch. Excellent presentation. What do you think of Seth, Marguerite? Is he a cool guy?
I think he's like a gift to our entire industry. I can't imagine anything like controversial or provocative about Seth other than the fact that he brings us these amazing, gorgeous, fresh speeches. Every time he speaks, it's always something that he's worked really hard on. And more people aren't watching this stuff. That's the stuff that this business needs more than anything. Nothing provocative about that other than the fact that we don't watch it enough.
Yeah, so everybody go on and check out Seth. It's a great video, and we're live streaming these events now, and we always store them. So there's a ton of them in there if you want to watch anything from Connect. It's yours to watch. What next, Danielle?
Last but certainly not least, an article by Mr. Brad Inman himself. How to live through and explain uncertainty. Brad, tell us what you got.
Yeah, I just see this is an over 60 story. I went back to 1968 and compared that year to today. It has a lot of interesting similarities. Race was at top of the agenda, a very contentious election between Tricky Dick Richard Nixon and Hubert Humphrey. There used to be banners outside my home, dump the hump. People were really, it was a crazy, crazy time, but we had two incredible assassinations. Robert Kennedy got assassinated the day he won the California primary, and Martin Luther King got assassinated. Urban riots, and a lot of interesting, detailed similarities to today. 1968 at the Olympics, Olympic runners John Carlos and Tommy Smith stood during their award ceremony, getting their gold and silver, and raised their hand with the black glove in protest of racism. And this year, of course, we have the protest by 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick, and being followed by others not standing up for the national anthem. So all these similarities, and my question kind of to the readers is, wow, what do you do with this? Well, one, don't ignore it. Be willing to engage people. We had a really interesting article on race, and people wondered, why did we cover that? It was by Teresa Boardman, and she was talking about white privilege, which irritated the heck out of some of our readers. Good debate. I'm all for it. Real estate's a big tent. But interestingly, a couple weeks later, I'm at Keller Williams in Austin, and a young man comes up to me and he says, thanks for running that article. It resulted in us having a discussion in our office about race, and we wouldn't have had that before. So congratulations to Teresa for writing it, and congratulations to Amber Toffin, our editor, for running it. And actually, congratulations to the hundreds of people that commented on both sides of the issue, because it was a great discussion. Anyway, what's the point of my story, Danielle? This is a long, rambling speech. Basically, you got to be alert, you got to be aware, you got to be engaged, you got to talk to your customers openly and honestly. There is uncertainty, but don't worry too much. And there was a little pony in here, people that didn't read the whole thing, and that was the news, 2 weeks ago. Real estate got listed in the Standard & Poor's as its own category. So there is some more predictability with real estate marketplaces, better indices. So despite the circumstances, real estate continues to kind of establish itself with more and more legitimacy, despite people's, having the heebie-jeebies for people to make investments. Blah, blah, blah. That was my story. I just summarized the whole damn thing.
So I guess I want to ask Marguerite a question then. What do you think? I can't, and I know obviously we have to be careful getting too much into politics one way or another, especially me being a broker owner. I have to be super careful now. What do you,
Danielle?
Okay, perfect. So what do you think, first of all, it's a two-part question. First question is, how do you think the election is going to affect the real estate market nationwide? Second question, what do you think about that football player? Because let me just say, I am not happy about it.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to disagree on that. So this is finally some provocativeness.
Oh.
To start with Brad's article, what I thought was so interesting when I was reading your article, Brad, is just reflecting on how when we think about the 60s as white people, we think about that's when civil rights happened and that's when race was solved in America. And when people of color think about the 60s, and I can't speak for people of color, but from conversations I've had, they think of that's when we all pretty much stopped talking about race in America. We all decided that everything was fair. Finally, everything was fair, and it was suddenly a meritocracy, and everybody could just be equal. And I think the different ways that people in America look at the 60s and remember the 60s is really relevant when you think about what's happening in America right now. So something like Kaepernick, and we have, which by the way, I don't watch the sports ball, so I just learned how to say that guy's name. But sports ball. There's a podcast where a couple of white men that I love in our industry were talking about this, and they were like, it's a really good point he's making, but that's just not the platform. That's just not the place. And I think that there's just even agents, white agents thinking this is a protest. There was an article that came out by Nate Bowling yesterday where he said, this is not a protest. This is a cry for help. This is a desperate cry for help. People are being killed in this country for the color of their skin, and nobody cares. So I'm sorry this is interrupting your sports ball. I'm sorry that this is, that the NFL is paid by the Department of Defense. This has come out. They are paid by the Department of Defense to have patriotic displays at our football games so that we will associate sports ball with patriotism. Like, that's crazy. We need to pause and stop thinking about like the NFL as an expression of our patriotism to begin with. Everybody just pause and think about what's really happening in our country.
Yeah, but Marguerite, you know, in fairness, Danielle, I know you want to pipe up too. You know, forget the NFL. It's kind of like, forget NAR. It's the everyday realtor. Well, what about the everyday fan? You know, half those stadiums are filled with, you know, people who may have served the country. And for them, this is a symbol that's so important.
Yes.
And not to have people rally around that, I think, you know, and I think it's fine he does it. This is America. Speak up, say what you want to do. On the other hand, I can also appreciate and respect people that felt insulted and didn't like it. And I know many vets have supported him, but it's still, you know, there are two sides to these issues.
My brothers have served. It's a luxury to be more concerned about a symbol than about people dying every day. And that is a white luxury. The three of us are having a white conversation. And that's
wait, I need to step in here because I'm in a city where Black Lives Matter, the movement is huge. And a police officer that I went to school with got shot in the back of the head and almost died. Another police officer a couple years ago got shot in the back of the head walking away after not arresting a group of young kids that were breaking the law, got shot in the back of the head, left his 2-year-old, left his pregnant wife, and died. So to me, and I'm not taking one side or the other, I think both sides need to wake up and let's call a ceasefire, because you're just going to keep creating this perpetual cycle of violence of Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, Purple Lives, all these lives matter. Yes, right? So, you know, to bring it back to the football game, you're doing it during the national anthem. To me, that's disrespecting that. That's like burning the flag.
I think what's challenging. Well, no, I think what we should go just to answer that point. I think the important thing to remember is just, you know, the reason people say Black Lives Matter in America is because when a police officer is killed, and I have clients and friends who are police officers who are amazing people. There's no doubt in my mind that they need to be safe at work. But we give a shit when police officers die. Black people are killed on the street every day, and Black men, Black women, and their lives do not matter in America right now. And that is a distressing fact, but we can't get all white fragile and sad about it. We have to engage in the conversation.
Okay, I think we covered this, gang. I think we covered this well. This is why we had Marguerite. She has strong opinions, and Danielle always has strong opinions. So real quick, let me tell you about some stuff coming up next week, and I'd love your opinion on this. Teak, our ace New York tech reporter, who's so curious about everything in real estate, always asking the tough questions. He's got us a really, really big takeout on Monday or Tuesday. I'm not sure when it's going to be published, on what you can discuss around commissions on social media, because he's been watching people get beat up for even mentioning the word. I'm sure neither one of you will say a word now because we can't talk about it. But this idea that you can't, so he dug deep into the history, the policies, the rules, you know, how it's regulated, and he's got a really good piece on it. I think it's going to straighten some out. But what's your view on this whole thing? You can't discuss commissions on social media.
Well, we can't discuss it, right? I mean,
you know, I'm rather old-fashioned on these things. Like, you know, we had a situation in our community where the barbers near the base ended up getting sued for antitrust because they all changed their haircuts from $7 to $8 at exactly the same time. They decided it together. And I mean, that's a very simple example of what happens in the real estate industry. And, you know, we can say there's no fixed commission. I think, you know, there's enough talking amongst ourselves already happening. We better not be talking about it on the internet. Like, it's not like people don't go to
I love that story, Marguerite. The government goes after a few barbers in a small town instead of Wall Street, which has fixed banking fees. I mean, you know, what a weird...
the government should go after everybody that does this shit.
No, I'm with you there. Hey, but read the story, gang, and just see how paranoid you need to be. And I think Teak sorts it out so people can, you know, at least be honest with one another about what the rules are. Another thing coming out, and I'm curious what your take on this is, in where you are, Danielle, particularly, special report on agent safety and what agents need to do.
Another one?
Yeah, and, you know, I kind of feel the same way. Have we had enough or what?
No offense, but like, all right, we get it. You got to be safe. People need to know where you're going. You should take some self-defense classes. Like, that topic is kind of overdone. I'm not discounting it. I'm not taking away from anybody. But, you know, I would rather, like, let's talk about, you know, what we discussed last night, talking about Ryan's post in the Agent War Room.
I completely
talk about
over
that.
60. Your partner forgot that we're going to talk about that. Go for it.
Of course you did. I think we need to discuss that post. And Ryan, I know, is probably sitting here like, when are they going to talk about my post? So Marguerite, are you familiar with that, Brad?
No, wait, sorry. I think I missed this one. What was the post?
Best for last. Go for it, Danielle.
So basically, I think you were tagged in it, Marguerite, and you commented a lot on it. And Ryan Bokros,
Maybe this is an old post then.
The one where it talked about blogging and, you know, should you do it? How much time should you invest?
The media company post.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
So he posted that actually a couple weeks ago. It's so juicy. Everybody keeps commenting on it and bringing it back to the top of the thread, which is really a good sign for a post. And I think he was just saying, like, Gary Vaynerchuk told us all to be media companies. Like, what does that mean for those of us who are trying to implement this? And obviously, like, when Gary Vee said that in San Francisco, I was like, validated. Like, it felt so good, because people do not, in our industry, it sometimes feels like we're not taking content marketing and this kind of stuff seriously as a prospecting method. Like, people want to talk about door knocking more than they want to talk about podcasting as a legitimate prospecting method. So I felt very excited by that. And I'm really encouraged by, since August, all the people who are taking it much more seriously and trying to start things and doubling down on their blogs. Like, I'm very encouraged by what he said and our reaction as agents to it.
Marguerite, can it kind of be a distraction? I mean, I'm in the media business, and everyone says they're a media company. Zillow says it's a media company. You all now are saying you're media companies. I just think the media, you know, can't be compromised, and you create content, great. I think that's cool. And I'd rather you see you produce content and give me that and your insight if it's legit than send me some, you know, sales pitch. But also, come on, you're not media companies.
No, I think that, and that's you're really getting to the heart of not only like why most real estate blogs suck, but why most of them don't work. Because
you shouldn't even write them.
You can't just say I'm a media company. You have to know what kind of media company you are. You know, are you Inman? Are you the New York Times? Are you the Stranger? You know, are you an alt weekly? Are you Fox News? You have to have a point of view. And if you don't, your shit won't work. It won't attract clients. So the problem with most agents is, you know, they go to seminars and people are like, start talking about interest rates. And you know what? Money.com, Forbes.com, they wrote 100 articles better than you did about what's going on with interest rates right now. What we need to talk about is like the juicy stuff happening in our communities. And that means people are going to disagree with you. Good. And when people disagree with you, that means you've hit on something good. That means you have a point of view. That means people are also going to be attracted to you. And this is not a waste of time. Can you imagine? I mean, we're talking about these issues of like great social importance in our country. Realtors are on the front lines of this. Housing, segregation, like the discrepancy in earnings, like we're seeing it all, and we are mute. Like, we don't talk about any of it.
You talk about it, Marguerite. That's
well, you do.
Starting, but it's scary.
Hey, Danielle, what does Marguerite's T-shirt say? She hasn't shown us her T-shirt.
The future is female. Yes.
Wow. We could talk about that next, I guess.
Sorry, Brad.
Talk about that.
I guess to me, you know, I don't look at myself like a media company at all. I don't have time to blog. Marguerite, I love that you do. I love all the people that do. Sean gave us a great presentation at NAR Tech Edge yesterday about his blog, which I thought was super interesting. His blog, if you're not following Carp's Corners, he actually got a guy Employee of the Month and a raise and all this national recognition from writing a blog post about his great customer service, which I thought was super awesome. So I did notice one of the comments on that post, and I can't remember who wrote it, mentioned, you know, if you're not going to blog, at least take the time to post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Use your social media as a blog. And that's kind of what I do. Because I don't want to be that opinionated. I don't. I can't have somebody say, okay, she stands on one side or the other on this issue. I'm not going to use her brokerage. I'm not going to use her as an agent. That makes me nervous.
Well, and I think there's, you know, you don't have to talk about Black Lives Matter on your real estate blog if you don't want to. That is not what I'm talking about here. But what I'm talking about is having a point of view. Our internet is flooded with content. And, you know, everybody does not have to be a media company, but I think you're just going to miss out on a huge chunk of business. Like my brokerage right now, I'm working with them to do a 12-month content strategy for 2017. And it's not all fluff. It cannot be, or you will not attract clients. Your
company read it.
Is special.
You got to make sure it's not advertorial. In the 80s, when I got involved in journalism and real estate, we fought advertorials. This is BS content written by the industry that consumers don't believe, that's just full of yuck. That we don't want to go back to. I mean, realtors can write this stuff till they're blue in the face, but I think consumers are smarter to know what's really valuable content and useful.
Well, and they're going to know who's on their side by the content you create. Remember when the market was going down, and who was our economics guy for the realtors who kept saying, everything's fine, everything's fine.
Published a book about it.
Oh my God. And like,
buy.
Zillow came out and said, actually, maybe don't buy a house.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like when Zillow's economist says like, actually, maybe don't buy a house. And they were right. And who do people believe now? Yeah. You know, we have to be trustworthy. We have to tell the truth about what's happening.
What should we wrap with, Danielle? What should we? One, Marguerite, you were awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, Marguerite's going to be on the stage in New York, Danielle. She's going to give one of our up-and-comer keynoters, and so that's going to be really exciting.
Ooh, what are you gonna talk about?
Don't put me on the spot, Danielle. I haven't narrowed it down yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I did my presentation. I practiced my presentation for NAR Tech Edge yesterday in the car before I walked in. I would love to talk about that for 2 minutes. Do we have 2 more minutes?
We have 2 minutes.
Can we talk about the young people?
Yeah, go for it. I'm all for young people.
So I'm just going to tell you guys, I did a presentation at NAR Tech Edge yesterday. I'm going to upload it to YouTube. I'm not going to put it on Facebook because, again, I try to be careful about how much I say on Facebook. Basically did a presentation on millennials as consumers, but also as realtors. I had a ton of broker owners in the room, a ton of people that run committees, that sit on committees, a lot of old people, and I'm sitting there.
Called mature.
Okay, mature. I'm sitting there and I'm discussing how young realtors are talked down to and no one takes us seriously and nobody believes us. And I've been doing this 10 years and why can't everybody just wake up and smell the millennial coffee? And literally have these people going, oh my God,
what do you mean?
She's wrong. And I lost it.
This fairness generation, you were on this stage and here you're on this show and you're being what? We're not listening to you? What are you talking about?
I have statistics from NAR up on the slide and they're telling me that they're wrong. And I said, I literally, this was not in my presentation. I did not intend to do it, but I kind of just lost it. I went off the rails. And I said, this right here, and I pointed to the man, he's in the second row, said, this right here is what I'm talking about. I'm presenting slides from the National Association of Realtors, and you're shaking your head at me because I'm 28 years old and I'm young and I don't know what I'm doing. And Marguerite, take it away because I know you got a lot to say on this.
You know, and I mean, it's the irritation of any younger person in real estate. I'm 37 next week and I'm still a youth, which is lovely, but also weird. And, 11 years in the business, and I have to still justify things to certain people when, if Brad, if you got into the business tomorrow, if you were some white guy that retired out of, corporate life and, in your 60s and started in real estate, everyone would just assume that you know everything. Everything you said, I mean, that's who we're trained to believe, and not realizing that Danielle knows more about contracts, knows more about closing deals, and knows more about this industry than someone who just walked right into it. But
a lot more than I do. I don't practice real estate. No, I think it makes. Hey, by the way, I should point out the Inman readership is so young, and the Connect attendees.
Well, because you're talking about important things, and this is where it gets really good.
We embrace you all. We
real
need you.
estate agents do not respect people until they take their money. So young people are going to come up and it's all about market share. As the market share tends to go to listings and buyers that are more millennials and agents who've captured those clients, then people will sit up and pay attention. And until then, don't waste too much energy on them. Just take the market share because nobody respects anything else in this business.
And you're doing it. You are taking market share. This is so obvious to me. It's happening. Okay, shout out for the over 60. You ready?
We love the over 60.
Look at Danielle. Danielle's shaking her head like that guy. You're shaking your head like that guy in the audience.
I'm still so angry about him.
How can you be so? Okay, don't shake your head. Don't give me that look. Last night, I went dancing with 3 wonderful people over 60. Bob Hale, Houston Association of Realtors. Dottie Herman with Douglas Elliman, Power Woman, Cherry Chris, and Yaz, and we danced all night. We had a ball. So, except
and I
Yaz.
saw that on
Yaz
Facebook.
is only 46.
I was kind of bummed. I wanted to join that party. That looked fun. No, and get it. You know, my father's 67. I have every ounce of respect for older people, whether they're 50, 60, 70, 80. That's not my issue. My issue is that they don't have that respect for me.
Respect.
And you know, people like you, Brad, and Sherry, Chris, you do respect us, but there are so many agents and realtors and broker owners, and this is why I left my company and opened my own brokerage. This is why I resigned from the Women's Council of Realtors, because of these things. And I just really want people to just kind of wake up. And I think what we need to do right now as a younger generation of agents and realtors, we need to stay involved. We need to make sure that we just keep pounding this issue into their head that we're not going away. We're not going anywhere.
And
you can try all you want, but we're not going anywhere.
This is a shout out for everybody under 37. Woo!
And it's not about, there's a trap in America right now, and it's generational warfare. It's dividing people by their generation and age segment, and it's silly.
Oh, that's bullshit. Yeah. I hope that
I think it's real, and I think what we need to do is, I want people to respect me. I'm going to respect people. Like, that's where we have to start. Like, I'm showing people respect. I want that respect back.
Well, I'll tell you what, the three of us respect each other, right? Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Hey,
Definitely.
Marguerite, thank you so much. I could go on and on. We probably should. We have unlimited bandwidth and unlimited, but you know, I worry about my readers and my listeners, and we got to be. Can we have you back, Marguerite?
Anytime you want.
Yeah.
Yay.
Hey, I love your T-shirt, and Danielle, you're fantastic. You're holding up the responsible part of this whole initiative. How did we do? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, Danielle, what do you think?
I think we did great. I don't know. I guess we'll log on to Facebook and see what kind of comments we got.
Yeah.
But I have
like
16 Facebook notifications, so that's probably a pretty good indicator. There's some excitement there.
Oh, good. So will you all help us out? I mean, Danielle, you're in charge of this. We got to find another provocateur like Marguerite for next Friday, same time, same place. Mm-hmm. Somebody really fun and interesting who can shake it up and cause everybody to get nervous a little bit, which Marguerite does. Thank you, Marguerite.
Thank you, Marguerite.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you soon, Danielle. Bye-bye.
Bye.